Hi Year 13s, in this video I just want to talk a little bit more about the forecast graph. Now one thing you may notice with this is that this pink region does get wider as you go further into the future. So it's a bit narrower here, but further into the future it's much further away from our red prediction line. And I mean, there's good reason for that. If you think about if you were to make a prediction for what might happen next month with something in the economy, you would be much more able to predict for, say, next month because we know the current state of the economy, we know how things look at the moment, and there's not a whole lot of time for things to change drastically. But if you are thinking about 2 years down the track, there's a lot more that could happen in the future. There's a lot more uncertainty because there could be some big event or something happen that could completely change the conditions that are kind of happening in our economy at the moment. So it could be something positive happens and in this case, there's more people in employment, or it could be something negative happens, another recession, more issues with COVID, that kind of thing, which could result in fewer people in employment. And so that's just something to be aware of, is that, yeah, the further into the future you are predicting, the more uncertainty and I guess the less confidence we have. And so that's why we have the wider 95% confidence interval. Now, this prediction here, this line here, the red prediction line, that is made based on the most recent trends and seasonal patterns that we're seeing. And so, kind of any recent trend that we're seeing, NZ Graph will kind of continue that trend. It's not going to take into account what was happening kind of 10 years past. It bases it off the most recent patterns that are happening in the data. Now, you might be wondering, well, how do I know where to predict? What places should I predict for? And so, I mean, a good thing to be able to do is have a reason for your prediction. So it may be that there's a certain time period which you have a reason for predicting. Maybe there's some event happening that you're able to find out about, or something that you know is going to be happening at that time, which would make you interested to make predictions. And depending on the data that we're dealing with, it could be useful for businesses to make predictions at a certain time so they kind of know what to expect, and that might help them in planning and buying stock, that kind of thing. It's probably useful to, now you need to make two predictions. So you might want to predict for the same time period. So if you're predicting for the third month, March in one of the years, you might predict for the third month in one of the other years, because then you can kind of specifically predict those 2 months, compare the accuracy of them, so the width, the 95% confidence interval. That's something that you could discuss a little bit more, because with your two predictions, it gives you an opportunity to get into a bit more depth in terms of accuracy of those predictions. That's something you want to be getting into a discussion about. So if one of your predictions is more accurate, which you should have one of your predictions more accurate depending on where you're predicting, you can get into a more detailed discussion.